Thank you all for joining us. Welcome to the Primary Sources and Teaching with Online webinar series. This is brought to you by the TPS Western Region at MSU Denver in partnership with the TPS Teachers Network. My name is Kyle Claybaugh. I'm the project coordinator for the TPS Western Region, and I'll be your host for tonight. Keith Patterson and Crystal Payne will be helping in the chat. So please feel free to ask questions or let us know if you have any comments to share. For those who would like a professional development certificate for your participation, we'll be providing a link at the end to fill out a brief reflection and where to send the certificate. Our two-part program tonight is entitled Listening Skills for Content Access in a Remote Setting. It'll be presented by Dr. Raleigh Schendel from the School of Education at MSU Denver, and he's a literacy specialist. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Raleigh.
Good afternoon. Great to be here with everyone. And I look forward to sharing some insightful information and some skills regarding listening with you this afternoon. I was thinking back and kind of wondering, okay, how and when have I learned how to teach listening? I can remember the times when I would tell my students in the classroom, look across the classroom at all my third graders, and I would say, now listen carefully. And what they would do is they would, fold their hands in their laps. They would stop doing whatever else they were doing. They would stare at me and they would act like they were listening. So in my mind, I thought, okay, they're listening. But I got to thinking about this more and more and talking to students and reading and researching and studying this concept. And I realized they had no idea what I was talking about. In most cases, listen carefully just meant stop doing whatever else it was that you were doing, but it didn't give them any insights or guidance as to how to actually listen in the first place. So today we're going to delve into 5 levels of listening, and we're going to learn some listening skills to enhance access to students to our content. And in particular, this will be beneficial now with our remote settings. But it doesn't have to stop there. It can absolutely be an integral part of classroom learning and participation, but not only that, homework settings, extensions to student learning. So the National Communication Association defined listening as an active process of receiving, interpreting, and responding to messages. Active process of receiving, interpreting, and responding to messages. So in part 1 for our listening webinar, we're going to learn about 2 particular parts of the listening levels. The first 2 being discriminative and appreciative. In part 2, we're going to learn about precise listening, strategic listening, and critical listening. So discriminative listening involves more than this, but these primary components. Now, one way that I used to teach this was actually amazing and beautiful. It was back in the day when we had CDs. Remember those things? Those get captured songs and music that we enjoyed. Post-dating the mixtape that you made for your friend, but these CDs, the CDs that I would use to teach discriminative listening included those spooky sounds for Halloween. Oh, beautiful. But we'll get to other ideas and ideas that you guys might have regarding this in just a moment. So discriminative listening is just this: individual sounds, phonological awareness, expression, integral pieces of literary element like onomatopoeia. What I want you to do is listen to this audio and identify the individual sounds, characters, and expression. So see if you can pick out bits and pieces of this recording that you can jot down or keep a mental note of, and we'll discuss that in just a second. So be sure to try to listen for particular instruments, listen to the pace, listen to the mood that's evoked as a result of the finite details. In essence, this is comparable to the See in See, Think, Wonder. So we're going to jump back together and we're going to share some of our ideas. So if you would post or write down some of your ideas in the chat box. Also, you can unmute yourself and just shout out particular bits and pieces of the recording that you noticed or identified, particular instruments, pacing, things like that. Go for it.
The chat box says it's disabled. I'm not able to chat.
I'm sorry, we can't put anything in chat.
Hold on one sec. Sorry about that. All right, you should be able to now.
Kyle, can you read a few of those chats?
Sure. So we got background music for a lot of old cartoons. Happy and unbeat, silly and playful. Were they marching? Lots of instruments. Happy like music from an old cartoon. Band music with tubas, clarinets, maybe a flute. Reminds me of a merry-go-round.
Absolutely, these are great insights. Particularly focused discriminative listening. A couple other things in addition were trumpet, trombone, and certainly it was fast-paced. This actually was the score for multiple old-time cartoons. So we're going to jump forward to appreciative listening. So we're just going to give you a taste of each of these levels of listening and give you an idea of how they might sound, what they might look like, kind of foster your generation of ideas that you can use in the classroom and or remotely with your students. So here we have appreciative listening, and just read through those bullets for a moment to get yourself acquainted. Now, the beauty of appreciative listening is that it reminds us that language has power. And one thing that I want to caution you against is thinking of appreciative listening as actually liking or enjoying something that you're hearing. It may be that you're greatly disturbed by something that you're hearing, and that's a part of appreciative listening as well, the emotion that's evoked from that. Here I have a clip that I want you to listen to. It will allow you to listen for the power of words, the emotion, the passion of the speaker, and how the rhythm of words and the cadence of those words help to evoke the emotion from the speaker.
And we have a 9.6, but we ain't here for this. I sit in English class. May as well be sitting in How to Idolize the English class. British Lit has never. The main character is most likely a Christian who has access to limitless adventures because of their privilege. Reading Narnia, and I've got to say the wardrobe doesn't suit me. How is it that the book is diverse enough to feature woodland creatures and talking beavers, but citizens of the one Muslim kingdom worship a demon? I'm just saying, the only two citizens who aren't considered fiendish are Princess Ervis, who runs off with the white boy, aka treason, and a guard who converts to worship Aslan the lion, aka feline Jesus. In Curtis Suttonfield's Prep, Darden is described as the class's cool black guy. He dark, he tall, he straight from the Bronx. His skin be synonymous with his basketball. He even got a gold chain to show his enslavement to a white author's pen and page. Everyone has seen the movie Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but who knew that in the novel, Oompa Loompas were chocolate-colored African slaves? Every paragraph I pick makes me feel degraded, but I must read every page because I will be graded. Education system worried about my racist progress reports. May I report on the education system's lack of racial progress? Because I've spent 12 years reading the same plots about private school.
Go ahead and start writing down the power of language, the feelings that you're feeling, the insights that you have regarding appreciative listening in the chat box as we continue to listen.
The same ones being built while my public education is capitalized. This for every minority whose house on Mango Street being gentrified. For those who see slave catchers in the Y and yearn to put the heads of pig-headed authors on a stick like the Lord of the Flies. Classic literature be the classic hall pass for white pride and prejudice. Make everyone as colorblind as Oedipus. If we really live in a post-racial time, why the clockwork's still orange? Can you read Chimamanda Adichie? She tells how not to stereotype and the danger of a single story. So maybe we can learn about Latino glory instead of thinking Mexico just a hellhole lying south of the border. Maybe we can read Angela Davis. She tells how prisons are obsolete, so black and brown kids wouldn't think that mass incarceration is the only thing that awaits them in these streets. Or maybe Amy Tan in The Opposite of Faith. So people who haven't seen members of the opposite race would have an image of diversity that diverges from token black friend, and black and brown kids will need spark notes just to comprehend, and then maybe, just maybe, I wouldn't feel 3/5 of a human after reading just 3/5 of a novel.
Oh, great. I'm looking at the chats and I see frustration, anger, passion, engaging. I can't wait to hear what he says next. He's determined, extremely knowledgeable, well-read, an expression of the power and the strength of his words. Absolutely, if we can find an example of a text like this to guide learners to engage them, appreciative listening. So I want you to shout out any ideas that you might have for using appreciative listening and or discriminative listening in the chat. You can unmute and you can share a little bit of your anecdote or insight, or you can just jot in the chat box. Ideas that you have, speakers that you know you would share for appreciative and discriminative listening, questions you might have. Go for it.
One thing I might point out is somebody mentioned that using a script of this in class will spark many discussions, and I can just imagine using it with sentence, phrase, word.
Yeah, the beauty of what Kyle just shared is, you know, the flip side of the coin. Jeanette Veach was recorded in saying, you know, reading and writing are two sides of the same coin. When you actually infuse written work into your lessons with like the actual speech or the words that this young man had spoke, the audio to listen to and listen discriminatively and appreciatively, then we build a bridge and we give them access. We actually create scaffolds for them to access the written word to a greater degree. So absolutely. Just mess with and jockey with playing with the order of those two, the written text and the audio text. I saw someone talking about teaching persuasive writing, persuasive speaking. Absolutely. The purposes of speech, an intro to Poetry Week. Have any of you ever used Poetry Slam in various forms with your learners? And can you imagine how discriminative and appreciative listening may play an integral role in developing your learners' understanding? Students love it. Very popular with high school, very popular in kindergarten. Absolutely. Access for English learners. Be sure to do some of the language swapping or code switching, code swapping. Encourage that with your English language learners. Beautiful. Modeling expectations. Yes, all excellent ideas. So as you move forward, be thinking, what audio could I use to teach discriminative listening, and what role might your students' understanding of listening discriminatively play in their future learning? Same thing goes with appreciative listening. So what I want you to think about is, how could this play out in my classroom to help enhance learners on multiple levels? Code swapping is a variation of code switching. So I'll give you a link, Mary. I can send you some info on that if you're interested. It's in a nutshell, it's a way of jumping from my native language to a language that I'm learning and back and forth. You might hear this happen with your learners, in real time. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and jump forward. This kind of concludes our part 1 portion of the webinar, and we'll move forward in just a second.
Yeah, and I might ask just real quick if anybody had any other questions before we move on.
The links will all be a part of the bit.ly. The actual poet was a young man who was showcased in the 2015 Poetry Slam audio that I had collected. So I'll send you the link. Absolutely, Michelle talks about making sure that our students see themselves in the audio, and that's actually why I chose this slam poet for the diversity, and to remind ourselves of just that. Make sure we find representations of our students in the audio that they hear, just like we try to do with the text that we have them read. There was a multitude of young female poetry slam artists to choose from as well, and they were fantastic. Oh yes, diverse audio as a window, a door, mirror. Yep, I love that. That's poetic in and of itself. Great job. Thanks, Patty.
Been a lot of talk about reflection too, and I think this would be a great opportunity to add in some reflection activities, either before or after listening to the audio, and even using slam poetry as a reflective outlet.
Yeah, if you even when you get this link and you go to it and you listen to a couple poets before this young man, the presenter actually talks about, what if we were able to use slam poetry instead of a book report? So he actually goes into the diverse options that are possible for teachers to create for their students to extend and showcase their understanding. So absolutely.
All right, so we'll go ahead and move on. As a reminder, if you need a professional development certificate for this, the link is up there on the screen. It's bit.ly/PS Teaching Online. The PS stands for Primary Sources, if you didn't know.